MAGA comes to talk. Welcome, one and all. And there's a lot of important things we got to cover here. And I want to begin by telling you guys this. We are months away from the most important midterm election, not only of our lifetimes, but this is the most important midterm election probably for the rest of our lifetimes, too. There will never be a midterm election as important as the midterm election in President Trump's second and non consecutive term. And we've got to win. We are going to win. I mean, we're ahead everywhere. We're doing incredibly well. The Democrats have no candidates. They've got no issues. They don't even have a platform, right? And we are ahead on everything, everything and everywhere. So the MAGA movement's going strong, but that still doesn't mean we could sit back and coast. We have to swamp them at the polls and have a massive turnout. But I have in the title, Trump and, beware of the black pillars. There are, let me tell you something about these Democrats, okay, and never Trumpers. They are a devious bunch. I mean, look right now at Mitch McConnell. Mitch McConnell's been in the hospital for almost 2 months. How long ago did we get this fake AI image? Has it been 2 weeks since we got that fake AI image in the hospital? That Scott Jennings phone call that he talked about on CNN for 17 minutes. And look at what these never-Trumpers are doing so that we don't have a special election and get a MAGA Republican senator in Kentucky. There's a lot. What I found over the last few days on X, the X, formerly Twitter. If you guys remember back in the days of Twitter, I'm not sure they put creamer in my coffee. I can't tell. The coffee is about 3,000 degrees right now. I gotta let it cool off. If it's black, I'll take it. Whatever. I don't like the taste of coffee at all. I just drink it for the caffeine. But anyway, getting back to this, there's this whole cover up with Mitch McConnell keeping us from getting a MAGA Republican elected during the special election. They'll stop at nothing. And I have come across something that is just, it shows you the deviousness of what's going on. Now, back before Elon Musk bought X, or bought Twitter and turned it into X, you guys remember the days of the left-wing Twitter mob. The left-wing Twitter mob. And the left-wing Twitter mob was a cancel culture mob, and they would just spend their days flooding Twitter and canceling people they didn't like. And they had some success. And Elon Musk got pissed off at that, in particular the censorship with the Babylon Bee, and he bought Twitter, turned it into X, and everyone thought that all the Twitter mob went over to Blue Sky, and all the liberals are over on Blue Sky talking in the liberal echo chamber of Blue Sky. Well, I don't know what goes on Blue Sky because I'm not there. Are you guys on Blue Sky? So they could be talking very openly about anything, and who would even know, right? But what I've come to learn and see a lot of in the past few days is that the Twitter mob is all over X, but they pretend to be MAGA. And I noticed this because there's two of our I call them MAGA martyrs, and of course I'm talking about Laura Loomer and Mike Lindell, and there's been some controversies about Loomer and Mike over the past few days, and X has just been blowing up, attacking both of them. And I've been looking at some of, and you guys could do this on your own, I've been looking at some of the people. I don't normally do this, but I did in this instance. I was looking at some of the people on X that are criticizing the great Laura Loomer and Mike Lindell. And a lot of them, you'll see them, and you look at their name, and you see their their picture and what their name is, and they look like MAGA people. And then you click on the profile and you see that their whole feed is filled with attacking MAGA people, not just this week, but however long the account has been in existence. So there's a lot of fake MAGA. The Twitter mob people are presenting themselves as MAGA all over X, and gives people and I wonder, I haven't done this before. I wonder how many other issues have they been doing this on, and getting people to think that MAGA thinks this and MAGA does this. The left are devious. The never Trumpers are lowlives, and there's so much fake MAGA out there that's working very hard to black pill MAGA. And you've got to be very, very careful of this. We have the greatest conservative political movement in the history of the United States right now. I often tell you guys that President Trump is more than a president. He's more than a political leader. President Trump, really, the MAGA movement, President Trump is a civil rights leader. And this is the largest civil rights movement in the history of the United States. And what he's doing is leading all of the American people to freedom, not people that are women or black. All of the American people are being led to freedom by President Trump with the MAGA movement. And we've had incredible success. We're winning the fact that Trump came back for a second and non-consecutive term is proof of our success. And, there's all these black pillars out there, and some of them are very open, like Tucker Carlson and loony Candace Owens, crazy Candace Owens. There's people like that. Pathetic Megyn Kelly, granny Megyn Kelly, who is desperately in search of an identity, and, she doesn't know what she is each day. You know what she is? Any of you ever see Boogie Nights? She's kind of like Don Cheadle in Boogie Nights. Remember Boogie Nights, that movie in the 90s? Every time you saw Don Cheadle, he had a new style of outfit. He's a cowboy, then he's a disco guy, and all that. You know what I mean? He was desperately in search of a personality. That's Granny Groyper Megyn Kelly, desperately in search of an identity. There's some of these black pillar people that are open, but social media is filled with tons of them, and they pass themselves off as MAGA. So you got to be very careful about this. This movement, the MAGA movement, we're all incredibly lucky because we're at the beginning of this new political movement. We're 11 years into it since Trump came down the escalator, but that's still the beginning. Could you imagine? It would be like being one of the first Republicans in the age of President Lincoln. We're in that with President Trump. We're on the ground floor, the early days. We are think about this. You that are MAGA, we are founding members of the greatest civil rights and political movement in this country's history, the MAGA Republican movement led by President Trump. Hold on, guys. Someone's blasting some music, so I got to... Okay, they turned the music off. But it's very true. And so we're on the ground floor. We are founding members of the greatest political movement in the history of the United States. We're founding members and participants in the greatest political and civil rights movement the country's ever seen. And and there's people out there trying to sabotage it. And the MAGA movement, this isn't just a couple of presidential terms. This is the way of the future for the conservative movement in this country for the next 200 years, right? And there's these black pillars or influencers that are desperate for a couple of extra clicks, or just say and do things that are really just attempts to try to divide the movement. And our movement needs to be 100% behind anything and anyone that President Trump promotes. If President Trump says we have to do this, we go along with it. If President Trump says I'm endorsing this person, you got to go along with it. If President Trump has a meeting with a foreign leader that you don't like, that I don't like, that's very questionable, but President Trump needs them for something, you got to back him, because he's the leader of the movement. He sees the big picture. He's privy to more things that we don't know about all of these things than we do know about them, right? So he knows exactly what he is doing. That's right. And anyone who doesn't go along with everything he's doing in this movement, they're trying to black pill you. Now, those of you that are MAGA, do you agree with that? Yes or no? You know, this is the early days, really. Even though it's 11 years in, this is still the early days of the movement. You know, I was talking yesterday. I'll give you an example. I was talking yesterday about Jackie Heinrich, the new head of the White House Correspondents Association. And there's this trend video of her looking at President Trump at the event, and everyone on social media is saying, oh, look, she's in love with Trump. She wants to be with Trump. She's looking at Trump. And you know, remember, I told you guys yesterday that the current head of the White House Correspondents Association was born in China. Jackie Heinrich from Fox, who's the incoming head of the White House Correspondents Association, her husband's a Republican congressman from Pennsylvania who's retired FBI. So Jackie Heinrich isn't looking at President Trump with loving eyes that she wants to go to bed with him. She's looking at him like, I'm going to undermine you and screw you over and destroy your movement, because her husband is retired FBI. They're deep state. Everybody's got all that wrong. It blows my mind. Democrats are sheeple. Never Trumpers are sheeple. I absolutely agree with you. Who said that? The Tankala. Yes. Never Trumpers are sheeple. No question. Democrats are sheeple. Obviously. It's true. See, President Trump is setting us up to have this movement for the next 200 years. There's a big move right now in the D.C. power circles to try to discredit J.D. Vance. I'm going to go into this on the next program when I'm in the studio, but there's a major, major move by the Never Trumpers and the Republican Rhino establishment to discredit J.D. Vance. J.D. Vance is very, very good, and that's it. You know, I mean, Trump trusts him. He's doing incredible work. So's Marco Rubio, and you can't let them discredit our people. Has he done anything? No. That to discredit himself? I don't think so. No, they did put cream in my coffee. It's just 2,500 degrees. I got to let it cool off just a little bit more. So do not let yourself be black-pilled. All right. Now, those of you that are Patreon supporters, if you become a Patreon supporter, there's a link in the description of the video. You get exclusive access to my Patreon only live streams, where I talk about things that I cannot talk about here. In fact, I've done a couple of live streams this weekend that are so hot that you only could watch them live. I didn't archive them up there. Okay, so, you know, sometimes I do these live streams. I'm like, should I have said that? So when you become a paying Patreon supporter, if you become a free Patreon supporter, you don't have access. You got to be a paying Patreon supporter, which is $5 a month, and you get access to my exclusive Patreon live streams. The link is in the description. And those of you that saw today's, you know exactly what I'm talking about. I did a live stream on Patreon before this one, but I can't. It's too hot for me to archive. So the ones that caught it live, well, you know, right? Welcome everyone. My name's Brian. This is where MAGA comes to talk. Subscribe if you're new to the channel. You know, and that's just it with President Trump. You know, look at the sacrifices that President Trump and the Trump family have made for the MAGA movement, right? And people aren't giving their 100% support for him. Give me a break. If you're not supporting Trump, you ain't MAGA. That's it. You're just not. You can't go against President Trump and be MAGA. Mm-hmm. That's right. That's right. You know, you give me a yes or no in the chat on this. Do you think Trump is going to do a massive bombing campaign of Iran? It's that we've been bombing them for 2 weeks every night, and it knocking out all these targets of things. Yeah, I hope so. I hope he goes in and just does a big carpet bombing of the whole joint. I mean, you just got to. What he's doing is he's taking, you know, Iran was a pretty modern country, and they're also a terrorist state. And the reason there's been no peace in the Middle East is because of Iran. Iran's been behind everything, right? Saddam's gone, Assad's gone. You know, all the ones causing problems are gone. Gaddafi. You know, everything is peaceful except Iran. And Iran was a pretty wealthy, advanced, modern nation, and he's taking them back through these bombings back to the developing nation period where they're no longer a part of the global economy. They'll never recover. I was watching his President Trump's press conference in the White House on Friday in the Oval Office before the Correspondents' Dinner. And this reporter says, you know, there's been talk of you, he says to President Trump, there's been talk of you targeting power plants in Iran. Some would say that's a war crime. And, you know, and President Trump said, I'm not going to respond to that. He says, who are you with? And the guy says, the New York Times. He says, oh, the failing New York Times. Goes figure, you know, he didn't answer. It's not a war crime to blow up the power plants in Iran. The Iranians have been blowing up people for 50 years. Blow up all of their power plants, their water treatment plants, all of their utilities. It's got to be done. Internet, cell phones, everything. And they're going to be back like it was in the 50s and 60s. They're going to be almost like pre-industrial in Iran. And that's the way it's got to be. And they're going to have to cede some of that territory. What's eventually going to happen is they're going to lose their access to the Persian Gulf at some point. That's probably what President Trump's long-term goal is to somehow, and he'll probably do this with other countries, Saudi Arabia, Iraq, Turkey, but black pillars, if you don't know, you got to keep up, man. Go Google it, okay? Keep up. I can't get out the crayons, for the liberally impaired all the time. But what needs to happen is Karg Island, and I don't know how far into Iran, but Iran needs to have all of their access to the Persian Gulf cut off. That area needs to be ceded and become an occupied international zone. You know, they can have no access to the Persian Gulf, the Iranians. That's how you keep them in check. Because that's where they cause all of their problems. Right? Exactly. And I imagine that's a long-term objective. I mean, he already met with the leader of Turkey and the leader of Iraq, and this nuclear reactor deal that he's making with Saudi Arabia. You know, there's a lot to do. You know, that has a lot to do with this. Yes, never Trumpers and Democrats are morons. No doubt about it. Agreed. If you're new to my channel, make sure you subscribe, okay? This is where MAGA comes to talk. When I'm in the studio, which I'm not now, I'm just out in front of Starbucks, but when I'm in the studio, I take live calls, okay? Iran is a sinking ship. Absolutely. Absolutely. Mm-hmm. You know, those of you that are younger, you just don't understand. I mean, you know, you don't have the world view. You know, I went to Barnes and Noble yesterday, and I bought a book that I started reading, which is very, very good. And I was wearing this hat, Trump 2028, and an alligator Alcatraz T-shirt. Oh my goodness, I was getting people. You go into a bookstore with all the snowflakes. They were looking at me like I was nuts. It was hilarious. That's right. It's like they're surprised that MAGA reads, right? I was doing a live stream on Patreon, and I was telling everybody on Patreon because I didn't realize I was just wearing what I'm wearing. I had my Alcatraz T-shirt on and this hat. I didn't realize. I told my wife. I said, you know what? There's this book I want. I got Stephen A. Ambrose's book on D-Day, and I said I want to get this Stephen A. Ambrose book on D-Day. I'm going to go to the bookstore, and I didn't real. I just This is just what I wear, And so I was telling everybody on Patreon. I said, oh, they're going to freak out when they see Trump 2028, this alligator Alcatraz at the bookstore. What would what would happen if I went up to the desk, the information desk, and said, "Excuse me, do you have any books on fascism?" They would freak out with all this stuff on. That would be a real troll move. Hey, welcome Norway. But of course, the left are the fascists, not MAGA. Remember, Rule 1 in Saul Alinsky's Rules for Radicals, which is the Democrat, the liberal Bible. Rules for Radicals says, accuse your opponent of being and doing what you are and what you are doing. And that's what the Democrats always do. As an example, the liberals are always trying to connect Trump to Epstein. Donald Trump turned Epstein into the local police in Palm Beach. No one else did. He turned him into the police. The police chief backed him up. It was in all the Epstein files. Then Mike Johnson, the Speaker of the House, leaked out something he wasn't supposed to. It was classified, but he said it. President Trump was a confidential informant for the FBI and brought down Epstein. Bill Clinton freaking had Epstein to the White House like 17 times or something. Bill Clinton. So that's okay, but that's how the Democrats are. They accuse us of being and doing what they are and what they are doing, right? So anytime you hear any accusation made against MAGA, Trump, any of us from the left, they're the ones that are doing it. Mm-hmm. No, this is Starbucks. This is venti hot blonde Americano with 5 shots of espresso. See, I'll show you. 5 shots of espresso. Can you see right there? 5 shots. That's right. Mm-hmm. Oh man, caffeine's kicking in. I was getting the caffeine withdrawal headaches because I didn't have any coffee at home this morning. Yeah, it does explain a lot. I'm a busy guy with a lot to do, so I have to be awake. Oh, man. Nothing better than 5 shots of espresso in the morning. The Democrat Party is a sinking ship, no doubt about it. No doubt about it. I mean, look at their candidates. Graham Plattner, they get a Nazi. He's accused of rape. And the guy they're replacing him with, I was reading over the weekend, there's some big scandal with him that's going to break soon that they're holding back on. They've got this Muslim guy running in the Democrat primary for Senate in Michigan, Dr. Ahmed, whatever. It turns out he's not a doctor. He's a democratic socialist talking about the rich and the poor and all this crap. He makes $700,000 a year in his salary. My goodness. Let me ask you guys, what are your thoughts on, we are just, 4, 5, 6, 7, we're 7 or 8 weeks away from the 25th anniversary of the Islamic terrorist attack of 9/11. Give me a yes or no. Is it appropriate for Mamdani to go to the 9/11 25th anniversary ceremony? You know, the 9/11 families have said they don't want him there. Is it appropriate for Mamdani to go to the 9/11 25th anniversary ceremony at Ground Zero? Yes or no? Oh, it's a big no for me on that. You know, to me, um, no, no, I'm sorry. I'm not interested in sex with you. I'm sorry. Um, you know, I think it symbolizes that we lost the war on terror to the Middle Eastern world. You know, if he goes and he heads up that event, Mamdani, that's what they'll be playing all over the Islamic world. It'll be like they won the war on terror and we lost. Mhm. I think it is wrong. If he were a decent person, he wouldn't go, but he's not. He's not a decent person. Mm-mm. Nope. Mm-mm. 1976, I remember it. I was in kindergarten. A little bit of a blur, but I remember it. Mm-hmm. Yes, welcome everyone. If you're new, make sure that you subscribe. I don't think it's appropriate for Mamdani to attend the 9/11 25th anniversary at all. It's in very, very bad taste. I mean, his wife just went off to some Islamic seminar in Europe. She, on International Women's Day, was praising a female plane hijacker, the wife of Mamdani. You know, there's certain things that are inappropriate. You know, there was someone who died in the broadcasting world, and I didn't like the person. Could not stand the person. We had nothing but conflict. They were a terrible person, and I was invited to go to their funeral. I did not go. And as crazy as this sounds, I didn't go out of respect for them and their family because me and the guy did not like each other at all. And I thought it was disrespectful to his family for me to go to the funeral of somebody that I had nothing but conflict with, and I didn't go. And Steve wanted to go. And I said, Steve had problems with the person too. I said, Steve, no, it's inappropriate to go. It's disrespectful to his family to go. And I'm not going to tell you who it is, because know it's a known person. And Mamdani going to the 9/11 25th anniversary ceremony, it's disrespectful to the country. It's disrespectful to the city of New York. It's disrespectful to the 9/11 families. It's disrespectful to those who lost their lives on that day, too. I mean, it's inappropriate. Inappropriate and mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. Disrespectful. Yeah. What about Mamdani Rocks? I mean, what has he done? Cause people to leave New York City that pay the taxes that support the city? What's he done? Make sure you subscribe if you're new to the channel. Everyone, please like the video. If you've not already done so, like the video, please. Exactly, he's done nothing but smile a lot. He likes to smile. Just like Ahmed in Michigan likes to smile, too. He's got the Mamdani playbook. But Ahmed, he kind of looks like a Muslim Elvis impersonator. He's got like these weird sideburns going on, you know. But the real fascists are the liberals, the Democrats. They're the fascist. They are. You know, like, I was talking about Laura Loomer. Look at what these Democrat fascists did to Laura Loomer, and many like her. Debanked her, banned her from every social media platform, banned her from Uber Eats, Lyft, DoorDash. She was blocked from, banned from all these things. You know, look at all these MAGA people that got debanked. General Flynn was debanked. President Trump was debanked. Mike Lindell was debanked. Loomer was debanked. Many people debanked. That's why the Trump family are into crypto. That's why Eric Trump started his crypto company, because they were debanked. When President Trump left office, he had over $1 billion in cash, and the banks wouldn't take it. So they started this crypto so they would be able to stay in the monetary system of the world if they were to get debanked. You know, the left are always criticizing them for being in the crypto. That's why they are doing it. Now, I got a question for you guys. It's something I don't get. Everybody here uses the internet, right? You're watching me online somewhere. Why is everybody so up in arms about data centers? Am I wrong about this, that without data centers, there's no internet? Right? The data centers are powering the internet. So the growth of the internet is going up and up and up and up. So don't we need data centers? Right? I don't understand. What am I missing? Right? If we don't increase the internet usage is going up. Like, I give you an example. My house was built in the 70s. My house was built like in 78, 79. And it just doesn't have enough outlets for all the electronic gizmos we have today, because back in 79, when the house was built, all people had was their 8-track and one or two TVs in the house. By 2035, data centers will be obsolete. Really? Okay. No, I understand about the water consumption and the power usage. I understand the negatives of data centers. Don't get me wrong. I'm not a data center apologist. But with the AI is the future of the internet, right? It's the new phase of the internet. They've got to grow the utility that powers all of it. Isn't that what is that not what data centers do? If we don't have data centers, will the internet not have enough power behind it to operate with the growth of it? And it's got to grow with what's going on. You know, I had to get the electric redone in my house because the house wasn't built for the modern era, right? You know. So it's kind of like it's a catch-22, the data centers, isn't it? I understand about the electricity consumption, the water. I know all the negatives. I'm not disagreeing with any of that. But it's a monster we've created. Dial-up, I wouldn't be able to do this live stream without dial-up. I mean, I want you to think about it. You know, where are all of you located, right? All over the United States. Here I am in Florida in front of Starbucks, live streaming to people all over the world, not just the United States. Someone was just in here from Norway and Australia and the UK. I saw a little while ago. You know, that's all powered by the internet. And as the technology gets more advanced, it requires more computer power behind it. So it's we've created a monster, is what I'm saying, right? We've created a monster. Nobody wants them in their neighborhood. I don't want one in my neighborhood either. Florida's friendliest hometown. All right, William. Okay. Welcome, everyone. Welcome, welcome, welcome. It just seems that we're in a catch-22 situation because no one wants to give up the latest technological advancement, right? New Jersey gas, $4.27. Right here, it's at the gas station next to me. It's $3.79, and at BJ's next door, it's like a lot less than that. Yeah, I'm looking at the sign right now. $3.79 at the gas station right here next to me. They're not open yet, but the sign's on. I don't know. I don't know people, but I don't think people are thinking about that. I mean, do any of you have that issue? Like you have so much. Do you live in an older house like I do? And your house just doesn't have the electricity you need for everything that we have electronic-wise these days? I've had to replace the outlets, get a new box put in for the power, new wiring, and everything else. I did not want to do it. But, you know, sometimes half the power would go off in the house if I did something, so I had to do it. Older houses just aren't made for the modern internet. So imagine the toll on the on all the servers that have been powering the internet over the years. They've got to be so overwhelmed with. I mean, look at how much, you know, people talk about the evils of AI. How it is expensive. I had no choice. I had the house rewired when I was on one of our MAGA cruises. I had them do it because I was, you know, on the cruise for a week. I figured that's the yeah. My mother's house was built in the 50s. Mine was built in, I think 79 is when my house was built. But Dustin, a member, welcome. Welcome, Australia. Good day to you. Good day to you in Australia. Make Australia great again, too. That's right. Our brothers in Western civilization in Australia. But, I mean, think about it. You know, everybody's against the data centers. I don't want one next door to me either, you know. They make a lot of noise, from what I understand, you know. But, think about it, right? I mean, even this week, when I'm talking to sometimes I'll call callers out on this. When you guys call me on the air, you'll hear me say, am I talking to you or ChatGPT? And I was talking to a guy a couple days ago who called me on the air live. You may have heard this call. And I can't remember the topic. And I said, am I talking to you or ChatGPT? And he told me, he said, well, I'm using ChatGPT during the conversation. So, you know, here's a liberal guy against data centers, and he's using the AI, which has caused the need for these new data centers. So, you know, it's just, yeah, it was much different before the internet, when I was on the air before the internet. And, you know, we've been talking to Google forever, but now, you know, yeah, remember the call? I can't remember what the discussion was. He was a college student, and he wanted me to cite my sources. I said, I'm the professor, you're the student, okay? Exactly. Exactly. I did my undergrad at the EIB University and, of course, graduate school at Trump University, so. I mean, give me a break. Cite my sources. So you can't use Midjourney or ChatGPT or what's the other one that everybody uses all the time? Claude. You know, you can't use all these things and then complain about data centers, right? Exactly. Exactly. If you're new, make sure you subscribe. If you love Trump, press 1 in the chat, guys. I can't press keys in the chat when I'm streaming. Press 1 if you love Trump. This is a Christian country already. Doc's a lunatic. I think he's just becoming a bit unhinged. Look at all that Trump love, guys. Look at that. I love Trump's joke about Caitlin Collins at the White House Correspondents' Dinner. She does look like Bud Light Dylan. Yes. All numbers mean you love Trump, by the way. All numbers mean you love Trump. And letters mean you love Trump. If you love Trump, just type in the chat. So anyone who types in the chat, look at all that Trump love. That's amazing. I think Trump's very popular. Hmm. Yes, best president ever. There's it's so true. It is so true. Because he is the first president ever, going back to George Washington, who's truly representative of the common people. And that's why the establishment hate him, because they're elitist. That's why they hate him. But we love him. I was on a few years ago on one of our MAGA cruises. I was wearing this sweater. Hold on, this guy's blasting music. I'll be right back, guys. All right, I think I saw this guy that was blasting the music. Okay, so I heard the music that was blasting, and it's somebody that pulled up to Starbucks. They go in leaving the car running because I guess they ordered online. The car, it's the biggest Humvee you can buy, totally tricked out with fluorescent lighting and everything all around it, different colors and everything, and he's blasting some dance club music. And the guy gets out, and he's like 55 years old or something, completely gray. And then he goes and comes back and gets in his car. That's a guy who is newly divorced, going through a midlife crisis, and has a micro penis. And he's driving around trying to act like he's cool. Looks like an idiot. Looks like an idiot. Oh, by the way, I wanted to ask you guys. I was reading online that there aren't any rap hip hop songs in the top 10, right? And I don't know if that's true or not, but I read an article about, because I don't follow the music charts, but there are not any rap hip hop songs in the top 10. And what people are speculating on is that USAID was inflating sales of rap over the years. What do you guys think about that? You think that's a possibility? I think it's a good, strong possibility. Well, that would not surprise me at all. By the way, blasting music at 5:50 a.m. driving around is a bit obnoxious, isn't it? Yeah. You notice that as well, stealth mode. Yeah. U.S. Look at all the money that the Democrats throw to these celebrities. AOC's a joke. USA doesn't do anything anymore. They've been dissolved. I was never a big fan of rap music. Every once in a while, I mean, I guess if you consider Vanilla Ice hip hop, or Little Eminem was okay, but I was never really into it. No, not for me. Not for me. I remember when it was new, and I don't know. I was probably in like fifth or sixth grade when it became really popular. Started to become popular. It blew up after break dancing went out. I guess breaking's kind of like hip hop, right? And I remember I had a friend. We were like in, I can't remember what grade I was in. Maybe fifth, sixth, or seventh grade. And he was a white guy. He was so into rap. Beastie Boys. Yeah, I didn't mind some Beastie Boys. Remember Beastie Boys were in Revenge of the Nerds 2? Nerds in Paradise. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Run DMC. Remember their movie, Run DMC? The Disorderlies? With Anthony Geary was in that. I went to the theater to see that. I was young. And I remember thinking, yeah, I said rap, man, I said that's gonna be like breakdancing. It's gonna be out. And here we are. It's finally out. If the sales were artificially inflated, that would be very interesting, because for years there had been these sales numbers with rap and hip hop that 80 to 88% of rap and hip hop music was purchased by white kids. And I just find that hard to believe, because I don't know too many white kids going around saying, white kids into rap are kind of like the goth kids. There's always one or two, but not that many. You understand what I mean? So how could 80+% of all rap and hip hop be purchased by white kids? No, doesn't make sense. No. Eagles, yep. Eagles like songs that are like as long as movies. The Senate's always on vacation, man. They're always on vacation. Always. You turn on Sinatra and start to cry, really? You know who I saw on YouTube yesterday? It was Dean Martin's daughter. Her name's Dina Martin. And she had Dean Martin's daughter, Dina Martin, has a YouTube channel. It popped up on my feed. I don't know. Check her out. And she sings like that Dean Martin type music in her living room. Every week she does like a live stream singing, and she's got a picture of her dad, Dean Martin, next to her. I subscribed. I want to support Dean Martin's daughter, Dina Martin. I like it. I don't mind that, Doesn't Dean Martin's daughter deserve our support? Dina Martin. Look her up on YouTube, guys. Mm-hmm. That's right. And she's good. She's got a microphone. She's in her living room. She's singing. Yeah, Dina Martin on YouTube. Dean Martin's daughter. And look her up. But I never bought the I never bought that over 80% of rap and hip hop was purchased by white kids, because I mean, think about it, white people. How many of you and your friends grew up listening to rap and hip hop beyond the occasional Beastie Boys, right? No. First off, if you're white, you can't even sing along to the music because it's filled with the N-word. No, I never bought that. And I'd love to find out if USAID was inflating rap and hip hop sales. They do. The Republican Rhino establishment. They do that with book sales. All these conservative people, they release books and they buy them up too, and that's how they pay them off a lot of times, is artificially making them New York Times bestsellers by buying up their books that nobody's ever going to read. John Thune will be out in January. He'll be out as the leader. There's no way. He's just he's holding things up right now. That's fine. Well, we're going to win the midterms. We're going to get a new Senate, and you know, we'll have a new Senate leader, a new majority leader, and it'll get through. You know, does Trump seem worried? He seems pissed, but does he seem worried? Mm-mm. When Trump's worried, you can worry. There's no need for us to worry. Trump's got it all under control. Exactly. You never have to worry with Trump in the White House. You never have to worry. If you're new, guys, make sure that you subscribe. That's right. Yeah, I think Dean Martin's daughter's name is Dina Martin. Look her up. She's got a YouTube channel. She does a live stream once a week where she sings that type of music, which I'm not sure. What do you call the Dean Martin era of music? What is that genre called? Is it music of your life? That used to be a radio format. I'm not sure what that genre is called, but she sings it, and she's a good performer. It's kind of like a lounge singer, and she's very nice. And who doesn't love Dean Martin, right? Don't you guys love? Everybody loves Dean Martin. Support his daughter, Dina Martin, on YouTube. The Romantic era? I don't know. What is that genre? The Dean Martin, Frank Sinatra genre of music. The Rat Pack, the I'm talking about like the solo act of not of the Rat Pack. Sammy Davis Jr., Dean Martin, Sinatra. What is that genre of music called? Romantic era? No. There used to be a radio format called MOL, Music of Your Life. Dina Martin. That's correct. That's correct. They weren't the kind of Democrats we have today. Matt Helm is badass, man. Ballads? Nah. Romantic fits? Maybe. Easy listening? When I think of easy listening, I think of Michael Bolton or something, right? I don't know. I don't know what that genre is called. You subscribe to her? Yeah, give her some support. Support the great Dean Martin's family. Rio Bravo, yeah, good movie. The Sons of Katie Elder, remember that movie? That's right, Dean Martin. Oh man, I tell you, we are so lucky to be living in the era of Trump, aren't we? What a clown show that they're talking about running AOC. I'd like to see AOC take the U.S. citizenship exam just to see how much she knows about our country. Yeah, Perry Como, that type of, what is that genre of music called that fits into that? Soft hits? Yeah. Yeah. What a joke. Do you think AOC could pass the American citizenship exam? I don't think she could. She's dumb as a doorknob. Mm-hmm. Yep. I don't think she could. Very bright. Really? What has AOC ever said or done that gives you any indication that she has any intelligence whatsoever? Are you kidding me? She wasn't even a real bartender. I would like to see. I talked about this when she was running the first time. Everyone was talking about her being a bartender. They kind of don't talk about that too much anymore. I'd like to see her go and order a drink from her. Like if I interviewed her, what I would do is I would find a couple of common drinks that have multiple alcohols in them. Like a Long Island iced tea, which I love, has 5 different alcohols in it. So if I was interviewing AOC, I'd have a couple of drinks that are commonly ordered that have multiple alcohols in them and ask her how to make them. I don't think she could do it. Do you? No. Nope. Nope. Some of the dumbest people I've known have advanced college degrees, right? I mean, look at Kamala and Jasmine Crockett. They have law degrees, right? They went to law school. If Jasmine Crockett and Kamala could graduate law school, what does that say? Well, there's a difference between a beer and wine bar and a real bartender, right? If you're just at if you're a real bartender, you know how to mix drinks. If you're working at a beer and wine bar, are you really a bartender? Right? Like if I went to Chili's, they're real bartenders. They can mix drinks. So there's a difference. I don't think Kamala Harris took the bar exam. I think her boyfriend fixed it for her, Willie Brown. Well, they're talking about running her for president again. Good. Run the loser. That's a great one. Yeah, run the loser. I think that's a great idea. If they run Kamala Harris, that just is because no other Democrat wants to lose. So she's going to do a do-over. Mm-hmm. Yeah, run her again. That's awesome, yeah. Run Obama again. I don't care. You're going to lose. We're going to win. We've got it locked up, man. If you're new to my channel, my name's Brian Craig. This is where MAGA comes to talk. Make sure you subscribe. And